I make a lot of predictions. 9 times out of 10, they're wrong. Not proud of that, wish I was better at it, but, I'm no Baba Vanga. Because if I was, I'd have every prediction be wrong. So I'll take the occasional victory. And one thing that I predicted and have been proven right about time and time again over the years is that once you reach a certain level of status in any given industry, it is impossible to fail. You only fail upwards. Not exactly a prediction, more so just a hard truth where once you're an elite member of an industry, you can't get knocked down at all. It's impossible. It's like fucking Derek Zoolander, but instead of being unable to turn left, you're unable to go down. You're unable to look downwards. You can only continue to fail going up the ladder. It's incomprehensible. It is a phenomenon that defies all logic. Why would someone who is bad at their job, a terrible leader that leads companies into financial ruin, just draining them of ham, constantly just hemorrhaging money, bleeding out, why would that person continue to land new jobs in equal or higher power than their previous one? Anyone else who is bad at their job gets fired. They get let go. But not when you become like a CEO, a COO, or anything to that level. You just go to another company as a COO or a CEO. The perfect textbook example of this is still John Riccitiello. He was the CEO of EA for a little while. He rose to infamy when he pitched this absolute fucking heater of an idea. I'm talking galaxy brain 5D chess move where he pitched the idea of charging gamers for ammo. So if you ran out of ammo in a Battlefield game, there'd be a pop-up that would say you need to pay $1 for your next magazine. That was his idea. I don't think he was ever fully going to go through with that, but that was the example he gave on how you can constantly be milking the titty of everyone who buys an EA product. He was too greedy for even EA, so he was let go and then landed a job at Unity. He became CEO of Unity, and I know you remember how disastrous that was because he nearly drove that company into the fucking ground. He nearly banished it to the shadow realm with how horrible his leadership was there. And there's plenty of examples of this. I still think he's the best. But why I'm talking about it today is because Disney just announced that it's looking at candidates for the CEO position since Bob is leaving again. And one of the people they're considering is the EA CEO, Andrew. They're looking at Andrew at EA. What in tarnation? Why on God's green earth would you be putting your peepers on Andrew Goober Wilson for the CEO position of Disney? EA has been one of the most consistently hated companies in the world for over a decade now. If Umbrella Corporation was a real entity, it would probably have a better reputation than EA currently does. It is a company that no one likes, except for shareholders. So Andrew Wilson has done a good job at EA for shareholders and nobody else. And you know what Disney really needs right now? Is a good reputation with anyone that's not a fucking shareholder, because people are getting really tired of what Disney's been shitting out. They have been pooping out slop, and a lot of people are tired of the stink. They're tired of smelling the shit. So Disney, I don't think, is needing an Andrew Wilson, cartoon villain here that's going to... Andrew Wilson, the reason why I said he's good for shareholders is because the EA price under him has raised pretty significantly. But I feel like Disney right now, what they really need is some slam dunks in products and properties that people really start to like again, because they are missing that entirely. Star Wars, for example. Holy Lord, what a fart in the wind. Most people don't care about Star Wars at all anymore. Most people roll their eyes when it comes to Star Wars. Look at Outlaws. That was an open world Star Wars game. Of course, it did have Ubisoft on there, so it was already doomed for mediocrity out the gate. But nobody was hyped for Star Wars Outlaws. There was a time when Star Wars was a guaranteed home run. Now, most of them are flopping. At least from what I can tell, the Acolyte, that was $230 million budget, and it raked in, according to the most recent financial reports that I can find online, $46 million. So it lost a total of $180 million. Come on, let's put on our thinking caps right now. It's not an issue of, oh my God, we need to start figuring out ways to nickel and dime the remaining customers we have. The solution is, how do we start making quality products again that people actually want to watch or purchase or get engaged in? Grow up. God, Jesus. Andrew Wilson is not the solution to that problem. Andrew Wilson is not the one that people are going to be excited for at the helm of Disney. People don't like him because people don't like EA. Now, to give credit where credit is due, I vaguely recall Andrew Wilson pushing back against some investor-led horrible ideas in a bad direction for some of the titles over the last decade or so. I'm foggy on the details, but I do remember reading about it a while back that he did actually make some decisions that I think it was something about like allowing the developers a little more creative freedom under the EA umbrella. Again, I don't remember all the details, but it's not like he's been nothing but mustache twirling evilness. But first and foremost, Andrew Wilson's priority is not good games. Never has been. It's been figuring out the live service model because I believe it's 71% of EA revenue comes from live service games. So it's always been trying to figure out the way to maximally monetize every single person who sits down to play an EA game. And there have been some good games that have come out over the years, and even live service games like Apex Legends from them. But overall, and Apex Legends is unfortunately getting run into the ground in recent times. But overall, Andrew Wilson is not a CEO that I think anyone thinks of and looks at as someone who actually cares about delivering quality products. It's about delivering big returns to the investors first and foremost, and that's about it. And I feel like in Disney's current state, they need someone that actually wants to start pushing them forward into good shit again, instead of just the same recycled formulaic garbage that they've been doing for the last, I don't know how many years, but they've just been on autopilot for a little while, going through the motions, and now it seems like, it's getting to that point where something's got to give. Like, they've got to start changing something, and they're looking at someone like Andrew Wilson to maybe be the leadership to do it. I don't think he is. I really don't. And in all fairness, this isn't really an example of someone failing upwards. I mean, he definitely failed in making EA a company that anybody respects. Like, EA is constantly spit on, but he hasn't failed in a financial sense or failed to the same degree as other CEOs like John Riccitiello. So it's not failing upwards per se in this case, but it is still just weird to me how he'd even be considered for this position. Like, I don't understand why the pool of candidates is so small that you're always seeing the same names over and over again, even if they have a resume of stinkers. Another great example, and sticking on the Disney topic, is they have greenlit a new Star Wars trilogy, and they've already chosen who's going to be the writer and producer. It's someone named Simon Kinberg. And if that name rings any bells, it's because you probably still have trauma from his extraordinarily embarrassing pile of garbage that many consider to be one of the worst comic book movies ever made, Dark Phoenix, where he was the writer, producer, and director. Going through his entire catalog here, where he's only directed a couple of films, but he's been a writer and producer for a long time, it's more misses than hits. Like, XXX State of Union, I loved it when I was a kid. I don't know if it's aged well. But he also did X-Men 3, The Last Stand, another absolutely despised movie, but then there's something good in there with Jumper. There's the Sherlock Holmes movie, which some people liked, some people didn't. First Class, which was good. Then Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. Oh my god, like, just look at this resume. Fantastic Four. The Fantastic Four. Again, one of the comic book movies that people to date still believe is one of the worst ones. In fact, among like the top 5 worst comic book movies ever made, Fantastic Four and Dark Phoenix are on every single list. This is the Fantastic Four film from 2015 that had the number 4 in the name, not the like old one with Jessica Alba. And he was not only a writer and producer on both of them, but even directed one of them too. Like, his resume isn't very good. Like, the good movies that he's a part of, he's usually a producer on, not a writer-producer on. Was this really the best possible writer-producer they could find for a new trilogy of Star Wars films? I don't think so. I don't understand how someone that has a resume like that, with so many super stinkers like Dark Phoenix and Fantastic Four and a couple of others on there, get chosen to make something like this, the new Star Wars trilogy. Like, it's not like those movies that he'd written and produced were just received terribly by the audience. They were turbo box office bombs that lost the studios millions upon millions of dollars. Now, I do understand that he helped co-create Star Wars Rebels, which does have a positive reception from what I can tell. I've never watched Rebels, but I do know the name. But even still, if you look at his resume, I don't think this was necessarily the best possible choice to spearhead a new Star Wars trilogy operation. That doesn't really get me salivating thinking, oh, this could be like a good Star Wars new trilogy. Like, I just don't have that impression because I'm familiar with a lot of his work and most of it's trash. It just really seems like if you somehow break through to that level where you're a writer producer on a Hollywood project, it doesn't matter what you do from that point forward because you will always still somehow be able to find work of equal or greater level. And I just don't get it because it's not like by merit or anything. It doesn't seem like, from what I can tell, Simon was the one that was like pitching Disney on this and they just really liked the direction. So they said, okay. It seems like it was Disney that chose Simon to write and produce for them. So, like, it's not like he did anything extraordinary, that he has a great idea and a great script and everything that Disney just had to buy. It just, I don't get it. I really don't understand how failing upwards is even a thing. And yeah, I just had to rant about this a little bit because I'm so tired of seeing like the same names that have been in the industries for so long and have done so many things wrong continue to get huge positions at companies going forward, because then there's nothing to be like excited about. Like for the future of Disney, if they choose Andrew Wilson, it's not like I think there's going to be some kind of drastic change. I feel like it's just going to be business as usual, but emphasis on the business, where Andrew Wilson's going to be prioritizing like cutting jobs, reducing staff, and trying to maximize monetization on like Disney Plus and all of that. Not exactly an emphasis on let's start making some really quality stuff. I could be wrong. I guess we'll find out if they go with Andrew Wilson, what direction he takes it. But it's someone whose work I am familiar with, and that is what he is known for. He is the shareholders' hero, but the gamer's pariah, because nobody likes EA. It has a terrible reputation. So again, he's not exactly an example of failing upwards per se, because he hasn't failed, but it does just, like, this whole topic is something I just wanted to speak on, because it is common for people that do fail at like a high level to continue to just keep getting more and more and more and more power and bigger positions. It's silly. So yeah, that's really about it. See ya.